What is going on, Diesel Nation? We're excited to have you guys with us today on the Diesel Podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube and aren't subscribed, make sure and click the subscribe button, like, comment. Let us know what you think about the episode. If there's any particular guests or topics you'd like to have on, we always love to see your guys' feedback on YouTube and then be able to incorporate it into future episodes. Today, I'm going to be joined by USA Diesel, and we're going to be talking about one thing a lot of you guys have told me with newer diesel trucks that can make you hesitate to buy them or is just a worry if you own one, and that's the DPF getting clogged or the soot load when you're idling the truck. So if it's cold outside or maybe you're on a job site, and they have a really interesting solution for it. So I wanted to chat with them about that, also their company, talk about 6 liter, some 6 liter stuff as well. So definitely looking forward to our conversation today. Before we get to it though, I want to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, which is Kershaw Knives. They've got a promo code just for you guys that you can use on their website. If you go to kershaw.kaiusa.com, use code 2024 diesel40. So you get 40% off MSRP. They've got a ton of different knives. So if you need something for hunting, fishing, EDC around the job site, they've definitely got you covered. So head on over to their website, use that code, take advantage, get some really cool gear, and save some money along the way. All right, let's get to today's podcast with USA Diesel, talking about soot load when you're idling a truck and also some Power Stroke stuff and some other projects that they're working on. Ed, welcome to the Diesel Podcast. I'm looking forward to chatting with you today about some really cool products that you guys have, and then also learning more about you and your companies. There's a lot of really cool things when we were chatting before that I know our audience is going to want to hear. So I look forward to our chat today and learning more about what you do and your passion for diesel and helping keep trucks on the road.
Absolutely. We're all about that. Thanks for having us.
I wanted to start a little bit with the background because I have seen FICMRepair.com. I have seen USA Diesel on Instagram, and I want to make sure all of our listeners, whether they've been around diesel forever or maybe that they're new to owning a diesel truck, that they know a little bit about you, your company, companies, and what you guys focus on.
Absolutely. Yeah, we got started back in 2010 with FICM Repair. We got into that as a result of my fuel injection control module on my Power Stroke 6 liter dying. And I'm like, Ford, you want how many dollars exactly for the small piece of nothing? You want $1,200? Sweet Jesus money. And so I successfully took mine apart and fixed it as the geek and nerd that I am and car guy extraordinaire. Well, I don't know about all that, but anyway. And then I posted on, there's a great website, FTE, they call it, Ford Truck Enthusiasts, otherwise known as Ford-Trucks.com. Give those guys a shout out. But I was a member there, and I'm like, hey guys, if just in case you're thinking that the only option for repairing your FICM is to send it off to the Ford dealership, recognize that's just not the case. You can carve at this thing yourself. And then, somebody sent me a private message saying, hey man, could you fix mine? I'm like, sure. Second guy, hey, can you fix mine? Sure. Third guy, hey, can you fix mine? Yeah, that'd be $100. One thing led to another. I don't even know. We're tens of thousands of these have been repaired by now. So now we're into FICM repair. We're into ECM, TCM repair, instrument cluster repair. Basically, if it's a module on your truck, we got you. And then not everyone is necessarily, well, I'd say the best at diagnosing their stuff. And so a key differentiator for us is someone calls and says, hey man, I need a FICM. Like, we don't go into what kind of FICM can we sell you. We get into it. So what's the truck doing to make you think you need one of these bad boys? And come to find out, man, you need a freaking high pressure oil pump. You need a dummy plug or a standpipe or whatever. Let's hook you up with what you need, not with what you think you need. And
that's what's
one thing led to another. Now we're about 16 million products. Sweet Jesus.
That's what's so cool about how the aftermarket has embraced and then offered solutions for diesel truck owners. Like the story you mentioned, I've heard that a lot, and I experienced it myself way back when I got into them. Was I had an issue, I needed a fix. The dealership had this crazy price on something, and I started to see somebody came up with a solution, and how that has progressed from like 2010 into 2023. I'm sure there's been a lot of growth, a lot of opportunity, and gosh, especially with diesel trucks, like we had chatted before about 6 liters. They're still popular, maybe even more popular now than they used to be. I don't know, but they don't have a shelf life, and there's so many platforms that need help.
Well, yeah, I mean, guys are constantly surprised that they pop the heads off their 6.0 and they still see the hatch marks on their cylinder walls at a 250,000 miles. I'm like, well, yeah, that's because of the high pressure oil system that you're griping about. It prevents the truck from having the possibility of igniting without 500 psi of oil pressure. So you have a fully lubricated bottom end before it ever goes kaboom. And of course, your motor's going to last longer. And so people start adding these things up, and they're like, "Holy crap! This motor's ridiculous." And yeah, it's ridiculously awesome. But you got to take care of it.
Yeah. Well, I definitely want to learn more about the process of your company growing, but there was a product I saw, and we had talked a little bit about it. I wanted to go into more detail because one of the topics we cover a lot on the Diesel Podcast is the newer trucks with emission systems and some of the challenges that they have with maintenance, longevity. I find a lot of the enthusiasts, maybe our listeners, they're very in tune and they're looking for information or ways they can prevent bigger issues with their truck. So I wanted to learn more about this product that you have, where the idea came from, what it does, and then what trucks it applies to currently, and then maybe some other ones you guys are looking at offering it for in the future.
Absolutely. So what we're talking about here, and for those that are watching on YouTube or whatever, I'll throw the little thing in. You can see a fun picture of it here. But basically, this is a liquid heat generator, and this is a reason I know that God loves you and wants you to be happy. In case you're wondering, this bad boy, it's just serpentine belt driven, and everything you need to install this comes in the kit. But it's serpentine belt driven. This thing generates 10 times the heat of your plug-in space heater. So your plug-in space heater in your living room or whatever, that generates 5,000 BTUs. This bad boy generates 50,000 BTUs. So it'll take your truck from 0 degrees to operating temperature in like 6.5 minutes. And you'll have heat out of your vents in like 2 minutes. So no more waiting 15, 20 minutes for your truck to warm up. No more all the gunk and crap, what's wet stacking inside the engine. You don't have any of that. Obviously, you're not wasting the fuel because diesels like to run hot. They don't like to run cold. And so the fuel efficiency is absolutely increased. And if all of that's not enough, so warm tootsies, happy passenger, probably your wife or girl, whatever, being warmer faster. All that aside, the actual financial benefit to you in real dollars that you can feel right now is twofold. One, you're not going to spend nearly as much on diesel exhaust fluid because your need to go into regen is going to be ridiculously diminished as a result of the fact that your diesel particulate filter has nothing to filter. So your DPF starts getting engaged when it starts having something to filter when your diesel's running inefficiently. So if we can get this thing up to operating temperature faster and then keep it there, then our DPF is going to be cleaner longer. And so we're not going to have to go into regen near as often. And so this 80 to 120,000 mile on average looming death sentence of, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, whatever it is to change out your after treatment systems, that goes away. And so it gets pushed way downfield because what this thing does, it's pick it up again here. It's clutch controlled just in exactly like your AC compressor is. So it's got its own ECM. So the vehicle's got no idea that this thing's even here. As a result, there's no warranty issues to worry about. You're not going to void your factory's warranty, nothing like that. It's about a 3-hour install, by the way. But it's got a little port on here for hey, what's my coolant temperature? And so the way that it works, there's an innie and an outie. So your heater hoses come in through here. And what happens is it heats up your coolant when it needs to, and then it cuts out when it doesn't need to. So when it doesn't, when you're at operating temperature, this clutch kicks out, and now it's just an idler pulley, and you've got your 12,000-pound trailer behind you. You're going down the road, no harm, no foul, and this thing is just idling at that point. It's just spinning. But then you get to the job site and you drop it in park, and you're taking care of business with the heat on or the AC on. Summer and winter too, doesn't matter. Your motor is not staying at operating temperature, just sitting there idling, even though it used to be at operating temperature. And so the clutch kicks in again and says, we can't have any of that. And so it goes ahead and it maintains that operating temperature, thereby giving your motor something to do, about a 5 horsepower load against the motor, and keeping your engine at temperature. So it's just better every way you look at it. There is no drawback.
That's one of the things I think that for me personally has scared me so much about newer trucks. In the climate that I live in, it gets cold for 4 months out of the year, 5 months out of the year.
Yep.
And I love the technology in them. I love the power. I love the torque. There's so many options. But I've also owned older diesels, and I know how long I would have to idle them to get up to temperature when it's 10 degrees, 0 degrees, -5. It takes forever.
It
And
does.
my mind would automatically go to, okay, I've got an EGR, a DPF. I've got to wait. Even if I plug it in, that's still going to take some time, overnight to warm up. And in the back of my mind, I think, how much am I loading the DPF? How much am I diminishing its life? And there was never a solution ever until we started talking about this product. And I thought, okay, this opens up the doors to what I would own, purchase, and be comfortable with.
Well, yes, because a lot of like our fleet customers, as an example, I mean, they're making the move away from diesel because of the concerns about maintenance costs. I've got an airport that we're working with. They had a Cummins 6.7 that they took it apart and it was just totally gunked up. They actually threw a rod. They needed a whole new engine, but it was all caused by the wet stacking that this motor was subject to in airport operations. So they got a $37,000 bill for a new engine, and it was totally avoidable. So, because it was on a fuel truck application, but there's thousands of different applications like this where folks are using their diesel trucks as grocery getters, or even if they're working them, which is the number one way to make your engine last, longer. Even if they're working them, you still have that warm-up time and you still have that idling time. And so, yeah, if you live in Fargo, North Dakota, there's no question about it. You want this product. But even if you live in Miami, you still want this product because the same rules apply. You're still not getting to operating temperature fast enough. You're still not staying at operating temperature, and you're still ending up with a DPF that needs to be changed out. You're still spending way more money on DEF than you need to, and you're still wasting fuel, and you're still gunking up the inside of your motor just a ticking time bomb away. Now, in the airport example, that's an incredibly egregious application, right? It's not typical. But, if you're a carpenter, you're a plumber, you're a masonry guy, you paying sheetrock, whatever, and you're using your truck for how it's supposed to be used, this is still about an every 80 to 120,000 mile adventure for you. And you're just like, God, that's a whole lot of money. And, we tell our customers for years and years, look, our goal is not to sell you stuff, it's to tell you stuff. And it's like, man, do you want to buy this thing or do you want to have this other repercussion? I mean, you decide. There's no right answers except for the right answer that is for you. But yes, a tremendous number of fleet customers. We got talking about that. I got sidetracked, squirrel shiny. They've switched over to gas, even though it's got less torque, even though it's got less fuel economy because of the maintenance cost differences. But this evens that playing field and allows you to have all of the torque and all of the benefits of diesel while materially pulling back from the risk that used to exist without this product.
That was the other big thing that would jump out to me as well. You mentioned that 80 to 120,000 mile range is, I think, owning a diesel truck. Let's say if we take one of the older ones, a 6-liter, a 5.9, an LB7, something like that. We went into that purchase and we knew, hey, I'm probably gonna have to do some stuff eventually, but maybe I can time it. Maybe I do plan on a little bit more power. I'll build the transmission first. You could sort of approach it in a more comfortable way when you were ready to upgrade. Versus now you think, I'm just driving this truck normally, however I use it. And in the back of your mind, you're thinking, I've got this 5, 6, however many thousands of dollar product or, DPF that I'm going to need. Can I even get it now? Is there a back order? How does that work? And so I found a lot of our listeners are definitely more proactive with wanting to learn and approach their maintenance different so that they can make them last longer. And I think this addresses something like I said, I've never heard about. I've never heard of a way to be able to get up to operating temperature faster. So I'm not creating that soot load, or I guess I can eliminate some of that inefficiency that the truck's just going to have based on it's a diesel engine and it's colder outside or I'm not up to operating temperature.
Well, 100%. And it's not like the OEMs have come up with an answer here. I mean, the closest that they've gotten, which doesn't address the problem at all, is just auxiliary heaters that provide you heat in the cab faster, but that's not getting your engine up to temperature faster. And so, and then the other guys are like, well, forget this noise. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to delete my truck. Not that I want to violate federal law, but I feel like there's no choice but to violate federal law. And it's like, well, let's talk about that. So you're going to delete your truck. What's going to happen? Number one, if you do it or the shop that does it, if you get caught, I mean, the EPA, they will come down on you. It hurts. The financial impact of that is real. And it's getting to be more and more real. Fewer and fewer shops are even interested in doing a delete. But let's say a fella already or a gal is already deleted. They say, hey, I've already solved this problem. I got rid of all that stuff. I put my truck on a diet, they say, and I don't need this. Well, listen, you're still having the same issues of potentially wet stacking your engine. You're still having the wasted fuel. You're still having the fact that you're freezing in your cab for 15, 20 minutes before you can go through all the time wasting and everything else. So even if somebody has deleted their truck already, they still want this product. But for all those people that thought that their only option was to delete their truck to avoid these issues, now they can be like, okay, yes, I can get that newer truck. We've got a litany of customers. FICM Repair started, like we said, back in 2010, just doing FICMs, and now we've kind of grown to we rep for everybody in the space. I can't think of the company we don't rep for, so we're kind of like a one-stop shop, all parts diesel place. So Ford, Chevy, and Dodge, we got you. But a tremendous number of our customers, they're driving the 5.9 Cummins or the Power Strokes 7.3 or 6.0 because I don't want to deal with the crap. I like the looks of the newer trucks, but I like the reliability of the older stuff. And because I don't have to worry about my DPF, I don't have to worry about diesel exhaust fluid, I don't have to worry about any of this stuff. And it's like, well, hold on a second. Did you know that there's an option? You could have your cake and eat it too here. And yeah, it's astounding.
That's the big quandary, so to speak, that I think I've definitely thought about too. It's always been a trade-off because I think I love 5.9s. I love older Duramax trucks. I never owned a
100%.
Power Stroke like a 7.3 or 6 liter, but I loved them. But if I go back to the interior on a 2007 5.9 and I look at a 2023 Ram or, an
It's just
'01
so
Durham,
different.
yeah, and just all the things that are there. It's like I love the new ones. They're so comfortable. They're quiet. There's so much technology in it. So I think a product like this addresses, a major issue. I know one of the questions the listener is going to have is, what trucks does it fit? And so I wanted to ask you that, like currently, what trucks can you use it on?
Well, it's an interesting question because this is completely, it stands separate from the engine. I mean, it's bolted up to the engine, but no part of the engine's computer system knows that it's there, right? Because this has got its own ECM. All you have is if you have here's the bracket for a Power Stroke 6.7 as an example. So it's just a question of the bracketry that's needed to get this to go. So today we've got brackets built for 2017 and newer Ford, Chevy, and Dodge diesel applications. So if you've got a 17 or newer Power Stroke or Cummins or Duramax, we got you. We have existing brackets. They work. You can order it off of our website today. You can go to usadiesel.com and boom, there it is. It'll take you right to the product page of this. But if you've got what we're doing is we're developing a list. And so if you've got an older, say you've got a 7.3, well, we don't have the brackets built for a 7.3 yet, but all these commercials that exist for the already deleted trucks, they exist for these pre-emissions after treatment system trucks as well. And so if we have enough interest in going ahead and developing the bracketry for that 5.9 or whatever it is, by all means, yeah. We'll build the bracketry for that too, and we can put you on a wait list and off to the races.
That's really cool because I think of how universal the application is. You mentioned it. It's not just a new truck issue. It's also an older one. It's still fuel
100%.
costs. It's still being cold in the cab. It's still wasted time that those older ones will have when you're warming up. So I think it's really cool, the design of it, how it operates. It has that compatibility to work on a 12 valve, a first gen, a 20, a 2020, whatever year it might be. So I think that's really cool.
Well, and if obviously in the diesel world, especially the propensity to have somebody that says, well, yeah, man, I got access to a CNC machine. I'll build my own bracket. Man, more power freaking to you, brother. We'll sell you the thing. You can build your own setup. And lest your listeners think that this product is new, or it's not well vetted. It's like, yeah, we're trying this out on you. No, there's some generator companies that have installed this product as a native OE part of their generator gensets from the get-go, and they've been doing that for years. And so this is tried and true. It works. Period. And because it is not tied to anything. If you've got an excavator running a Isuzu inline six, and man, you're freezing your tush off, waiting for your old excavator to warm up, it's the exact same conversation. Just rinse and repeat.
How does as far as the install, is it something like how does it work, or can you walk me through just some basics of how I would install this on my truck?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's about a 3 hours of your life episode to install. It comes with some idler pulleys that you're going to need. It comes with a longer serpentine belt. It's engine specific. So say you do have like a 2019 Cummins 6.7 as an example. It comes with everything that you need in order to get that installed. So you're pulling off your old serpentine belt. You're installing this essentially where the second alternator goes. So if your truck is set up as a dual alternator setup, you will have to convert it to a single first. For now, we're working on that, but for now that's the case. And you just bolt this to the front of the block, and run the serpentine belt through, and off to the races you go. But full instructions come with it, everything a growing boy needs, and we're publishing some install videos too, just in case it helps somebody.
I like that with the install. I don't have to worry about codes. I don't have to worry about a tune. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff, because people don't want to deal with that anymore. In the early days, it was okay, but anymore, I don't think they want to.
Well, people want easy. They want simple. They want, I think Staples had a wonderful, push the easy button. 100%. Good job of the marketing person who came up with that. Not my forte marketing, but I do appreciate it very, very much. But yeah, I mean, this is set it, forget it. It's a one-time install and you're done. And because it's not vehicle specific, actually, if you're going to sell the truck and you're thinking, man, I might not get my cash out of this thing again. Current street price on this is $2,400. Some people are going to want to know about that probably at some point. But if they're like, man, I'm going to put this on, I'm not going to see my money again. Well, recognize you are going to see your money again in fuel. You are going to see your money in DEF. You are going to see your money again in saved time. But then also, nothing prevents you from taking this off of this truck that you have now and putting it in the next one. So if you're a guy who trades in his truck every couple of years, man, yeah, don't buy a second one. Just go ahead and take it off and transfer it on to the next one and off to the races. I mean, if you can educate the next guy and say, man, you really freaking want this, because they really freaking want this, then great. But don't think that it's necessarily that your only option is to make it so that, it's on this truck and this truck only, and it's an investment in this that I might not be hanging on to forever. Yeah, if you're not hanging on to it forever, you can still buy it and have it for now. And when you get the replacement vehicle, pop it in there.
That's a really good point, because a lot of times if you do upgrades to a truck and you sell it, you're selling the truck with the upgrades or with the things you put on. And you do think that you're like, oh, well, I'm not going to be able to have this on the new one, or it won't fit, or I got a different year. And this being able to be universal, really, besides a bracket and a belt, it'll work.
That's 100% correct. It's set it and forget it. You give me 12 volts power for the ECM that comes with it, and a serpentine belt that runs across it, and off to the races we go. And because the clutch is it just kicks in when it needs to. I mean, it really is. Once you install it, you are 100% done.
I like that. Makes it easy for me. Like that easy button you mentioned.
Like the easy button, 100%.
I wanted to step back for a second, because I love hearing the stories of companies and the passion for diesel, whether it's with a racer I'm talking to, or an enthusiast, or a founder of a company. I'm curious, where did your passion for automotive, for racing, for vehicles, specifically for diesel, where did that come from?
Well, I started messing with engines when I was a wee lad, and so it's been kind of in my blood for for years. And then, like a lot of your listeners, I imagine, you start and you're looking at campers when you have a family, you got a wife and some munchkins, and you want to go some places, and you're like, man, that little gasser just can't get it done. And we need a family hauler. So it started with the acquisition of a Ford Excursion, which has got its own separate set of followings. And so I've got like a half a dozen 6 liters that I own. My favorite 6 liter continues to be my Excursion. That is just that truck is amazing. But yeah, I mean, where else are you going to put your vehicle in and drive and just get off the long skinny pedal and pull your 12,000 pound camper, have it, start moving without any extra input on the throttle. It's just stupid power, and you feel like Tim the Toolman just a little bit. So yeah, and then growing up with nothing. So part of our prior conversation, you were telling me about guys you're listening to that haven't had it the best, and maybe they're still not having it the best. I feel for those guys because I was one of those guys. I grew up in the inner city, bad. I mean, we had the highest per capita murder rate in the nation when I was growing up. It was rough. And so, you grow up with nothing, and you appreciate everything. And so, there wasn't going to be another toy at Christmas time if I broke this one. So you learn how to do it yourself. You learn how to fix it yourself. You learn how to help your neighbor out who has no idea what they're doing. So, well, I mean, I try this. I did that. And I learned everything, pre-YouTube. I mean, YouTube is an unbelievable resource anymore. Well, we didn't have that as kids. We had Haynes manuals. Oh boy.
I've seen a few of them.
Yeah, just a couple. And so, but yeah, my first engine was my first vehicle I bought for $100, knowing full well it had a blown engine. Later on, found out it had a blown transmission. I'd like to think I'm not just a total idiot, but I am responsible for blowing an additional 5 engines. But I learned a ton. I learned so much through that experience, and it's absolutely amazing. One of my taxis is it's all nuts and bolts, and I think that there is an element of truth to that. For even with this liquid heat generator, like, oh man, I don't know if I can install that. Sure, you can. If you've installed an alternator, you can install this product. It's just not that complicated. But just to be able to see somebody's dream and be part of that, and say, and build the zeal in their eyes to say, "Hey, man, I did that." That is an incredibly rewarding thing. And we've helped. I don't even know how many shops get started. Just because guys were doing it out of their garage, and it's like, "Hey, man, you're Joe. You're calling me again." It's like, this is more than just a single truck we're working on here. Well, yeah, I'm working on my buddies. Like, you call me a lot for your buddies. How many buddies do you have exactly? A couple hundred. Holy crap, man, you're working on a couple hundred trucks? Why are you not a shop? Well, I got the job, and they got the 401k, and it's like, oh man, do you know how amazing the world could be when it's your own gig and you can help so many people, and you can offer a better service at less money for people. And I had one of my customers years ago. It was so incredible. They wrote me a little thank you note on the back of our little intake form. It says, something along the lines of, your value priced quality service allows me to keep food on the table for my family. I'm like, aw, that's what it's about, man. If we can't help each other out, what good are we? So it's fun, and it's fun to see people brag about, oh yeah, I installed your FICM tune, and I'm getting another couple miles to the gallon out of my truck. Or I put that 4-inch exhaust, and man, you're right, 3.5-inch to 4-inch exhaust. I never realized it's 25% more airflow. Pi r squared, Miss Smith in middle school, she was right, 100%, man. And people don't realize that it just comes down to simple physics, and diesels, they like to breathe, and you feed them what they want, and they'll be very, very, very happy with you. But in so many of our conversations with our customers, I equate so much of our troubleshooting, because part of what we get if you call us up, tech support from us is always free, always. We never charge for that, and we'll spend just as much time trying to talk somebody out of something as trying to talk them into something. And we give credit where credit's due. If we've got a vendor that makes an awesome X, but their Y isn't so awesome, we'll tell them that. We'll say, hey, well, yeah, buy this from them, but this other one, yeah, they're still working on some bugs. So go ahead and let's go with this other solution. And so we're vendor agnostic when it comes to that stuff. And it's so amazing and so rewarding to just meet people where they are, help them through the challenge that they're having, help them see a larger world, help them realize the reasons why. Schools they teach facts. That's great, but you can memorize all that stuff. If you can show somebody the reason why, it's like, hey, the reason why you retorque your freaking lugs after 30 miles on aluminum rims, there's a reason for that. And if you don't do it, it's going to end badly for you. I don't want that, right? And people say, oh, okay, I got you. Yeah. And torque specs matter and all this kind of stuff. And what affects torque specs? And oh my goodness. So it's just there is a tremendous amount to know. And so many people, they're so busy with their lives, they're so busy, putting food on the table for their family and everything else. And as a result, what's happened is, and not to go all out on theory with you, but people are used to getting shafted essentially. And that's a travesty. Be the good that you want to see in the world. It's not that big of a deal, but to be able to throw a tune on a diesel and be able to have all that extra oomph, all that extra power, you're pulling that mountain in Colorado, and you're not getting passed by the Nissan next to you. That's a pretty nice feeling, you know? And so just to be part of that, I mean, be part of making stuff last longer, and saying, hey, you don't need to get a new one of these things. You can put a bypass oil filtration system on here. You can put better air filtration on here. You can throw a bigger turbo on this thing, bigger injectors. But let's not have you do that if you're not willing to spend the money on a transmission right now. So all these things, they work together for good. And so I guess that's a very long way of saying I love people, and I'm a tech guy. And so I'm a car guy, a tech guy, and a people guy, all in one guy. It's a very sad story.
The part of that I really strongly identify with is the helping people portion. I had a conversation once, this was with a family member, and not someone I'm particularly really close to or see a lot, but you meet up at the holidays and you catch up, and they say, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing for work? All that kind of stuff. And I'm trying to explain, like, working in media or being a podcast host and my passion for trucks. And they said, well, I thought you loved to help people. Like, when I think of automotive, I think of it very technical. I think of it very XYZ, very informational. And it was hard to explain to them, but I think we're going to both identify with it. Is one of the things that's most personal to people is their vehicle. They use it every day. They don't know how they use it. It might just be to go point A to point B. It might be to provide for their family. It might be to keep food on the table. It might be to pay the mortgage, the rent, whatever it is. So it's very, very personal to people. And so I always identified being able to help somebody with information or pointing them in a certain direction. It's incredibly rewarding because I'm able to impact positively something that somebody uses every day. So whether it's a technical question or sometimes a younger person will message in and say, hey, I'm just out of high school, just out of college. I love trucks. I want to work on them. My family tells me, hey, I need to go get this degree and do that, but this is where my passion is. Well, let me do an episode about it. Let me talk to somebody who's done it. And it's that impact. So it's really cool to hear how that's impacted you and formulated your businesses and how you approach it. So it's one of the things that historically I've always found in automotive. I didn't really find the human side of it, the human story of it, because I mean, it's very technical. It's very competitive. We want to know, CFM, ETs, horsepower, torque, all that stuff. But sure, there's so much more behind it. So that side of what you mentioned, that really hit home for me.
Well, absolutely, and recognize that while there are a relative ton of guys who are like, man, they want the horsepower upgrades, they want all of that. There's so many more that just like, look, I just want my truck to work. I'm happy with the stock power levels. How can I make this thing last longer? How can I make it reliable? I mean, we got started as FICM Repair, and PowerStroke 6.0 has a horrible reputation, created by guys that don't understand the concept of maintenance. Primarily, I would say, if you go ahead and turn this thing up to 1,000 horsepower, don't be surprised when something breaks. I mean, right? That happens. And so just realize, you talk about these young kids that they're calling in and they're like, oh man, yeah, I hooked up this crazy huge trailer to the back of my truck, and it's pulling it. Yeah, it's squatting in the back, but it's pulling it. And isn't that amazing? Yeah, it is amazing. But have you thought about the fact that you don't have as much weight on your front axle anymore? Have you thought about the fact that if Jimmy runs right out in front of you, you're not going to be able to steer because you lost steering control, because you don't have adequate traction? Can I sell you a solution for that, or convince you not to hook up that huge crazy trailer anymore because it's just not safe? And so at some point the conversation becomes safety. I want to be safe. I want to put my wife in my truck and not have to worry about, is she going to make it home, right? I want to put mom in there and not have to worry about when she's hooking up a horse trailer or whatever. I don't want to have to worry about it. And we have enough to worry about as it is without having vehicles that don't work properly. And so if the aftermarket can come in, and the aftermarket has done a magnificent job. I just got through with we were at SEMA this year, and that's an amazing experience of all these incredibly gifted minds coming together for a solution. And the fact that they get to make money doing it, sweet. So yeah, it's quite fun and very, very, very impressive. And this latest product, this liquid heat generator, it's just another, it's like, oh my God, why didn't I think of that kind of thing? It's so obvious. If you're a diesel owner, you want this, period. It's just that awesome. And so many guys they're used to their own paradigms of, well, this is just the way that it is. My life is just this way. Well, we're a product of our choices. And so if you don't like your life, make different choices, and you start seeing the fruits of that come in. Install this product, and you'll have warm tootsies, right? Or install road active suspension is the product that we tell people about all the time. Not to do another product plug, but just to say, hey, you don't necessarily need the airbags. You don't necessarily need to add another leaf. You can go ahead and maintain your relationship with your chiropractor as just the buddy down the street instead of the guy that you're seeing every day. You don't have to stiffen up your ride to be able to tow that thing all the time. And there's solutions, there's options for this, but people just don't know. The official people called they. I don't know who these they people are, but holy sweet Jesus, they need to stop talking. They say that ignorance is bliss. No, ignorance is expensive. And so
It's true.
if we can lessen that financial load for somebody, that's what we want to do. So we haven't been beat on price in, I don't even know, 13 years-ish. We price match for 30 days after the sale. We rep for essentially everybody. Our goal, is to be like the one-stop shop for all things diesel, which is actually why we're migrating away from FICM Repair. People don't think of FICM Repair when they think of lift kits, or they think of turbos, or they think of front-end components. Injectors, whatever, but they might think of USA Diesel. So we're rolling out usadiesel.com, and currently, if somebody goes there, it'll take you to a product page for this liquid heat generator on FICM Repair. But don't be surprised when not too long from now we will roll out that new web presence, and it'll have all of the gajillion products that we sell offered on it. But know that if you're looking for something special, you're looking for a particular solution, call. Talk to one of our guys. Anyone that answers is more than qualified to talk with you, and we'll just help you as the neighbor that you are to us, as the friend that we don't know yet. And it's not that difficult to do the right thing. I tell people all the time, if you can't do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, I mean, number one, I feel sorry for you. I'm going to pray for you a little bit, but if you can't do the right thing because it's the right thing to do the right thing because it's good business. People don't want to be sold. People want to be loved on. They want to be appreciated. They want to be helped. And so why can't we do that for people? It's just not that complicated. And so for all your guys that are listening to this and they're actively turning wrenches or whatever, thinking that their life is just as it is, they can absolutely be everything that they want to be, whether that's in mechanics or something else. So that vision is there for them. It's just a matter of them seizing out and reaching for it.
I think what's been so incredible watching the diesel industry from, gosh, I think I really started to pay attention maybe in 2006 or 7. And it started with a diesel magazine, and then I would go to different forums and things like that, to where it is in 2023, is how much opportunity is there on so many different levels. This would probably be a whole podcast episode by itself, but
Sure.
I think the emission side of things really forced companies and engineers and people to think, okay, how do we infuse some of the reliability, some of the things that the older trucks had into these newer trucks? And then it's progressed to this point where a lot of the things that are coming out for new trucks, they're being retroactively working on a 5.9 or an LB7. I'm sure you hear with all the companies you work with, tons of different stories, tons of things they're doing, and it's really exciting. So, just because someone like I'm not a mechanic, I'm not that mechanical, but there was a spot for me in this industry to talk with people who are, or to hear stories, or to learn about new products, or I'm sure I'm going to ask you some 6-liter questions here before we wrap up. Is
Go ahead.
be able to find that kind of stuff. So that's what inspires me and has me, really excited about it. And I really appreciate what you guys are doing and the approach that you take. It's very unique, and it's something I think the industry needs more of. And I think it benefits not only the customer, the people who call you. Maybe they don't even order anything. Maybe you just help them and save them money.
Right.
But also
100%.
somebody out there that's thinking, I'm not happy in my job, or I'm not happy doing what I'm doing. My passion is really this truck stuff. This is what I love. I love Cummins, Duramax, Power Stroke, whichever one it might be, or maybe all of them.
Yeah.
There's something there for you.
Well, there really is, and it's so nice to be a springboard for people. I can tell you, I mean, a significant number of times where someone's gone on to greener pastures that's worked for me, and I'll get a text from them or a phone call from them years later, just thanking me, saying, "Hey, because you were so passionate about this, that allowed me to do this other thing, and my life is just better." And like, wow, and it's just like, huh? That makes that 1% of people that you're tempted to let it ruin your whole day. People say, well, oh, he made me feel badly. No, he did not. You chose to feel badly as a result of his actions. Own it. Take ownership of your own choices, your own life paths, and recognize that with these trucks, when the knee bone is connected to the hip bone so very seriously, like you talk about a Power Stroke 6.0, and people call us up all the time saying, "Hey man, I'm having a turbo underboost code. Can you sell me a turbo?" It's like, your turbo underboost code is probably because you don't have you have an exhaust leak. Can we check for an exhaust leak before I sell you a turbo?
Yeah.
Or maybe your FICM isn't working right, and because that'll cause a turbo underboost code as well. And if you need a turbo, brother, we'll sell you a turbo. But if let's hook you up with what you need, not with what you think you need. And then, if say to you, say it is a turbo, and you're like, okay, fine. So you need a turbo. Okay, do you want to go back with stock, or do you want something a little nicer, right? And what's that forward plan look like? And let's map this out so you're not throwing away money now by buying something that's only going to last you for the next 6 months, and then you're buying something else from us. I mean, we got videos on our YouTube channel, just FICM Repair on YouTube, and there's like 80 videos out there, but a lot of it is, like there's one on injector sizing, and it says, "Hey, so you need injectors. Now what size?" It's like, well, have you thought about the fact that if you put on like 205/30s, like, I'll never run 205. I don't need something that big. Sell me some 155/30s. Well, okay, we'll sell you the 155/30s if that's what you really want. Just recognize that you're pigeonholed. You can take your 205/30s that you're going to spend like $150 more for the set of 8, and you can tune them down to work just like a 155/30 for all intents and purposes. And that way I only have to sell you a set of injectors once ever. And isn't that better?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's better. But hey, if you don't want to do that, I'm going to sell you some 155s, man, brother. I'll line up right behind you, support you all the way, and get you the 155s that you asked for. But at least now you have this extra information. At least now you can make a better informed choice. It's kind of like right now, if somebody goes on our website and they order something, people are always surprised. They're like, "Yeah, I had somebody call me." Yeah, we call pretty much everybody back who places an order, and it's absolutely amazing we modify about 80% of our orders. So an order comes in, they order a turbo, they order exhaust manifolds, they order, injectors or whatever. And 80% of the time we end up modifying that order, which a significant percentage of the time actually involves getting rid of what they was in their shopping cart to begin with. Said, brother, you didn't even need that. Instead of spending thousands of dollars on what you thought you need, how about if you spend hundreds of dollars on what you actually need? And they're like, holy buckets. I had a guy that he called me up. This is some years ago. It's just a great deal. He called up, I answered the phone, "Thank you for calling FICM Repair. This is Ed. How can I help you?" And he says, "Thank God." Like, uh-oh. this can't be good. Why are you thanking God for talking with me? Well, I understand that you're the 6-0 guy and that you can, if anyone can help me, you can. I was like, man, I don't know. That's a lot of pressure, but I'll do what I can. What do you got? So he goes to this whole story. He says, I'm down to my last $5,000. My truck's been to 3 different shops over 9 months. Nobody can fix my problem. And I'm hoping you can. He says, you can have every bit of the 5,000. I just need my truck back. I desperately. I'm like, okay, tell me your story. So I spent an hour and a half on the phone with this guy. And hour and a half in, I'm like, okay, I know enough. He's like, what, you can't help me? I said, no, I know exactly what your problem is. I said, but I feel badly telling you. He says, what do you mean? I said, your problem is a FICM relay. Your entire problem is a freaking relay. I said, I can sell you the relay and I'm going to be cheaper than Ford is. I know I am, but if your Ford dealership's right down the street and I'm not. In fact, I'm so sure that it's the relay, that if it's not the relay, you send me a copy of your receipt and I'll pay for your freaking relay. It's the relay. Go buy the relay. I said, just ask, I'd love to know how this turns out for you. Just call me back and let me know. He says, why are you doing this? He says, you could have sold me all kinds of stuff and include the relay in there and I would have never known the difference. I said, yeah, that's accurate, but I would have known. So he called me up. It's like 3 hours later, my phone rings. He had caller ID, the same number. I picked it up and I was like, oh, I hear a diesel running in the background. He's like, man, what do I owe you? I said, you're a Corona. It's good. I never got my Corona, but that's okay. But it was just so fun to bless somebody that way.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff that we do. And I'm so on fire for this liquid heat generator project. I hate to come back to that again, but I mean, guys, I hope your listeners hear the passion and the drive and the love for people. So I love the technology. I love my stuff to work. I'm 52 years old. I'm at a point where I just want my stuff to work. And I don't want to go in there again. I want to fix it once and be done. And so any of your I said customers, but any of your listeners who are looking for a way forward, that they don't want to give up the crazy torque and the crazy power and the fuel economy that comes with it and everything else in their diesel, but they're also sick of freezing, and they're also sick of having this thing looming over their head about this, $5,000 to $7,000, whatever it is, $1,000 for after replacements. Or if they're just like, man, I'm tired of my truck going into regen all the time. I'm tired of it going into limp mode. I'm tired of my use of this truck. It doesn't even get hot enough that it goes into regen. I have to put it in manual regen. And what a pain. Yeah, you don't have to do any of that anymore. Just buy this product and move on. I know it's not free. I get that, but it will pay for itself. I am firmly confident. And if your application is slightly different, and you're like, well, do I need this application or that application? Hey, call us. We'll talk with you about it. Maybe it's not for you, and that's okay too, right? But if there's one thing that we want to leave everybody with, is just this concept of, hey, there's somebody out there that's not looking to gouge you. We're just looking to take care of you. And the companies that we choose to align ourselves with, they're very well vetted, and we are incredibly confident in their product offerings. Otherwise, we wouldn't offer them. And that's just where it's at.
That's such a huge deal. This is complete coincidence. But I was up early this morning and I went to order something. It doesn't have to do with automotive at all. And I went to check out. I made sure everything was right. Address, billing, shipping, does the autofill credit card thing. Doesn't work. I'm like, I know I have the money for it. Go do it again. Doesn't work. And I thought, okay, maybe it's just something. I'll wait till later. I get an email from them. They're 2 hours ahead of me. They say, hey, there was an issue with our website. Sorry it didn't work. You can check out now. Here's a link right to the product. And I thought, automotive needs more of this. This was just a technical error on a website that was going on. These people were proactive. It wasn't a lot of money, but they were proactive, reached out and did it. And so in my mind, whenever I want something else, I'm going back to that place because that person took the time, the 30 seconds to send me an email. And I think what you're talking about with helping people is it sticks out in our mind of if I need something, I know where I'm going back to. And I think that kind of leads into, because I can't have you on the podcast and not ask a 6-liter question, because we get these so much, and people who own them are so passionate. They're so passionate, and they say, do another 6-liter episode. I'm like, okay.
We got you.
But I think of somebody who's doesn't own one and they're new and they're looking out there, and that's the truck that fits what they want, what they need, however they're going to use the truck.
Sure.
And I know just asking you to pick three things is tough because there might be more with any truck that's out there. But what are three things that somebody who just buys a 6-liter should look at doing for reliability? Not necessarily power or torque or, any of that stuff, but just what should they look to, like three things to make that truck more reliable?
I would say the number one thing, and this stands just head and shoulders above every other option that's out there, is a recognition that the factory gauges are borderline worthless. So, like, have you ever noticed that your transmission fluid temperature gauge is always dead set in the middle of perfect? I
Yeah.
mean, that's either the best heat exchanger known to man or it's lying to you. What are the options here, right? And same thing with your low pressure oil. It's dead set in the middle of perfect, and you realize, that low pressure oil, that's a 7 psi switch. It's just on off. It should have been an idiot light. Yeah, but it didn't look cool. And so the marketing people got a hold of it and said, let's put a gauge there. Woohoo, right? But if you get gauges, if you get so my favorite gauges from Edge products, the Edge Insight CTS3. That's another reason to know that God loves you and wants you to be happy. That is going to give you insight, no pun intended, into what's going on under the hood of the truck. I mean, you can monitor everything in this freaking dog, 12 things at once or some such, and it'll beep at you when bad things are happening, so you don't even have to notice. And then it supports the addition of auxiliary gauges. So if you do add power and you want to know what your exhaust gas temperatures are, you want to know what your fuel pressure is. The number one killer of fuel injectors is a loss of fuel pressure. And there is no fuel pressure sensor from Ford on this truck. So don't you want to buy Edge's, what they call their competition kit? I don't know who comes up with these names, but you buy their competition kit, you tack it on to the Edge Insight CTS3. And yeah, you can buy this stuff from anybody, but Edge, has minimum advertised pricing. So everybody is the same exact price. But I'd love it if you buy it from me, by all means, of course. But buy it from somebody. And that way you got full monitoring, full introspection. On my excursion that we talked about a few minutes ago, my alternator was failing, which, by the way, dead alternators are super high on the list of why FICMs fail. So if you don't want to be my customer for the FICM, get a bigger alternator. We can hook you up. Watch my alternator videos on that. And there's a 20-minute conversation about why alternators are too small in a Power Stroke 6.0, but they're too small. I don't care if you live in Miami, they're too small. If you live in Fargo, oh my God, they're too small. But gauges is a very, very, very big thing. It'll give you early indication of problems. It'll allow you to trust your truck to take it across the country without having to think about it. Now, from a longevity perspective, also, this is the second thing, is there's a transmission upgrade. Most of these trucks are 5R110 transmissions. They're automatics. But that truck does not upshift through fourth gear. It shifts 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. In super cold temperatures, it shifts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But in the vast majority of cases, it shifts 1, 2, 3, 5. 6. And so really super high on the list of things that cause a 5R110 to bite the dust is the clutch pack that handles that shift wears out. And it's not the $200 for the clutch pack. It's that you got to drop the tranny to replace it. That sucks. Why not drop the pan and change out two solenoids? We've got an electronic pressure control solenoid and a direct drive solenoid. You change those two puppies out, and I got a video of that. There's right on my homepage at FICM Repair, actually, FICMRepair.com, and you can watch the 20-minute video, but talking about all the reasons why it's awesome. But you're going to double your line pressure and quadruple the flow of tranny fluid that you've got going to that clutch. And the number one way that you know this is happening, that you're about to have this problem, is actually you put it in reverse and it takes a second to engage and you're like, uh-oh, that's not good. Yeah, you're 100% that's not good. Or you're getting on the expressway in the morning and it's like somebody put your truck in neutral for a second. You're like, what happened there? Oh, that was just a one-off. But then it does it again on the way home and you're like, oh, crap. And so people find this out, they put the solenoids in, and 9 out of 10 times it gives them another maybe 30,000 miles. But, I tell people, like, when's the best time to plant a tree? That'd be 30 years ago. When's the next best time? Today seems good, And so let's go ahead and get those solenoids installed. And while you're at it, realize that in the 6.0, the 5R110, that's the same tranny made into a 6.4. But in the 6.4, they have a differently configured pan. People call it a deeper pan. It's not actually deeper. It's just differently configured. It supports a filter. The 6.4 guys, it supports a pleated filter that filters at 15 microns. The filter that's in your PowerStroke 6.0's tranny filters at 149 microns. Brother, if a 149 micron filter makes the difference for you, you needed a transmission a long time ago just anyway,
Yeah.
right? So let's go ahead and get 10 times better fluid filtration as long as we're taking this thing apart anyway. And let's go ahead and prevent that clutch pack from ever failing. And then life is truly good. And the third thing, and I've already mentioned it, actually, I kind of cheated. Maybe we're at 4 now. If you want to do the competition, get called that one. I don't know. But if you don't want to be stranded, if you've got more than 160,000 miles on either your starter or alternator, consider replacing them. I've yet to see a 6.0 in one case ever, actually. A 6.0 starter has given me warning. So in the morning you wake up, turn the key, in the afternoon, boom. Next morning, turn the key, boom. Afternoon, turn the key, not even a click. It's just dead. It's just like, what happened? It didn't no warning. Yeah. And it's not going to happen on a 72-degree day and a Saturday when you got nothing going on. You know when it's going to happen. It's going to happen when you're in a hurry and you're stranded someplace, you're at the ball game or whatever. That's when it's going to happen. So change this puppy out and then just move on. And there's a whole video on that too. There's upgrades. So that's at least some. I could go on for quite a while. As you probably heard.
There's some good tips. I haven't heard those before. So I think that's that's a lot of good stuff. I know there's going to be questions that our listeners had that I didn't ask you. And for those who are listening on podcast apps, they're not going to see the phone number behind you and that. But what is the best way to contact you guys, ask a question, talk about a build, maybe ask you a question from the podcast, something like that?
Absolutely. Lots of ways to get hold of us. If you want to grab us on Instagram, we're at USA.diesel on Instagram. Facebook, we're USA Diesel on Facebook. If you want to go on YouTube, not to confuse people, but we're FICM Repair on YouTube, so our legacy brand is still standing out there. Or you go to FICMRepair.com, there's a chat function right there. You can talk with one of our techs that way. Or you can call us, 515-897-4459. And, we're around, most of the time. And so, your listeners, I'll just throw a little carrot out there. There's a really fun, really, truly, I enjoyed recording it. It's fun. If you're on hold, if you don't get us right away, and you listen to the little on hold music, it cuts in about 30 seconds in with just a little piece of levity to just brighten your day. It's worth the call, just if nothing else, to hear that. So, but yeah, the 515-897-4459 number, I would tell you that's probably arguably the best way, because only through conversations are enough hints laid forward that really allow us to really put all the dots and connect them to each other to get somebody a cohesive solution, because that's what it's about. I mean, we had a guy that called us just in the last couple of days, actually. He's like, hey, my truck's saying I'm at 178 coolant and 187 oil. Do I need an oil cooler? Brother, you need a thermostat. It's 192-degree thermostat from Ford. You're at 178. Yeah, your deltas between oil and coolant are okay, but you need a thermostat. And oh, by the way, Mishimoto's thermostat, it's a 200-degree thermostat. It's way the heck better. And so buy that and move on. And oh, by the way, you want to put silicone hoses in at the same time and all this kind of stuff. You can do that. And that ended up in a whole conversation that nothing to do with an oil cooler at all, but it was just through some extra little hints that he gave, it became clear to us that there was more going on than what he was originally alluding to. And so I would say that through the conversation, and isn't it sad that we've turned into this society where we just hop on Amazon or what other e-commerce site, and you buy something and they ship it to you and that's it, but they're not checking to see if you got the right stuff. And so it's like, yeah, I'm 1,000% cheaper if something is possible than that. Because you're not having to buy the wrong thing and all the hassle and everything else. If you buy something from us, it's going to work for you. So that's the story.
It was really cool to chat with you today. I had a blast on this podcast, and I probably could keep you for 3 or 4 hours going through different topics, but I know you're a busy guy. But I appreciate you sharing the knowledge, answering the questions, and then talking about a product I think is really important. Like I mentioned at the very beginning, one of the main issues that I would personally have with buying a newer truck was, I know if I work it hard, it's going to work well. I love the technology. I love the styling. I love the transmissions that are in them. I love the payload. I love the towing capacity. But how do I address my idle time? How do I address getting up to temperature? So I love what this does. So again, I appreciate your time today chatting with us, and I look forward to chatting with you more in the future. There's a ton of different topics. I'm gonna make some notes after this one, so I can get on another podcast with you.
Well, very good. And if your listeners do have questions, please don't be a stranger. Drop us a note, even to sales at FICMRepair.com is another way to get us, and we can start the conversation. Anything that involves helping people, sign us up. We're in.
Don't forget, diesel fans, make sure and head on over to kershaw.kaiusa.com. Use code 2024 diesel40 for 40% off MSRP. They've got a ton of different knives to meet a whole different host of uses you might have, whether it's EDC, hunting, fishing, something around the job site, at work, even around the house. They've got a ton of different choices for blade shape, handle design, different blade lengths, and also different types of steel that you can get. So we appreciate them offering that discount code just for Diesel Podcast listeners. Also want to give a shout out to some of our Patreon supporters, Tyler Lowen at 23 Diesel, J. Cole John, all of our other Patreon supporters, all of you who subscribe on YouTube podcast apps, follow us on social media. We appreciate all your support here in year 8 of the Diesel Podcast and look forward to bringing you more of the content that you want to hear in 2024. Till next time, keep the shiny side up.